I got the two springs in. Now, time for the mainspring. First off, the hammer arm, mainspring arm, whatever you want to call it. I don't really know the proper terminology for most of the parts in this pistol. Just kind of stick it up in this hole. That's what she said. There you go. Yeah, seats in there pretty deep. And the mainspring. Whoop. And there she goes. Ah! Butterfingers. And the magazine release. Now here's the two arms here on either side of the two notches, whatever you want to call them. They're going to go into these grooves cut into the frame. Now, once you've got it in place like this, you just push up on the mainspring, and then let the notches go, let the notch bits go into the notches in the frame there. That's all working well. Yep. Now it's time for the grips. Now, because this here bit is loose, you can see it's rocking there. It's supposed to be in like that, but for some reason it's loose. I'm going to have to put on the grip first. And now, I'm going to use the little small skinny tool pretty much and poke in there and try to put that thing back in place. And then once it is, anyways, once I get that piece in place, the grip plate itself is going to keep it there. Yeah, I got it. There we go. Now the other grip plate goes on. You just got to kind of rock it in forward like this first. And then just kind of snap it on. You want the grips to be sitting flush with the front of the frame. If it's kind of sticking up off of it a little bit, then that means you don't have it on right. Got my grip screw. Put that in there. The base plate of the magazine, I use that for a screwdriver. Works pretty well. There. Very good. We got kind of the magazine body here. You can use that to test the magazine release. That's just holding it in there. Because the base plate's not on there, it's rather loose, but once you get the base plate and everything on it, it'll be nice and snug. And you just pull back on the magazine release without getting caught on the back of the mag body. For future reference, mag body isn't good enough as a test for the magazine release. Best to have it all put together. But now that I'm done using the base plate as a screwdriver, I don't think I really need it anymore. Oh, we'll see. We'll get the frame done first. Okay, so we've got our empty frame. First thing I'm going to put on is the grip safety, manual safety. Because if you put in the firing pin before the manual safety, you won't be able to put the manual safety in. There. Grips in place. You may as well leave that in the fire position. And the extractor, and where's the extractor spring? There it is. I think I've got it here. A lot of hair, I'm sorry. So you've got your extractor spring and your extractor thing And there's your extractor, nice big thick piece of metal. That's a good thing because you don't want the extractor breaking on you. It's quite easy to put in. Once you put the extractor spring in place, you take the extractor like so. You push it in, push it down first, put pressure on the extractor spring, and you push it in towards the slide. It slides in right easy. And the next part, the firing pin and the firing pin springs. Now when I took out the firing pin, I mentioned how the springs go in. So you've got the firearm right here, and the springs go like this. You've got that arm that reaches up and it pulls down on the loaded chamber indicator, and this here is the firing pin spring. Hope you can see all that. So yeah, here's the empty slide. I've got the firing pin spring in there. Put that spring in like so. I hope you can see that. Now, you've got to have there's a flat part on here, and then on the other side of the flat part there's some grooves on either end, as well as the punch for what factory it was made in. You want the flat side of the firing pin to be facing up. And you put it in, and you want to guide those two springs on it. I want it quite smoothly. Then you push in on the firing pin a bit on the back, and you want to put the firing pin block in there. That's what I call it anyways. I don't know if it's got any other use other than that. And from there you could put in, I'm guessing this is a disconnector. I think that I believe that this piece here is what, hang on a second. See, when you got the hammer cocked, these parts stick up, and I think, and also when the trigger is pulled, the pieces stay up as well. See, they're not going down. I let go of the trigger, those pieces go down. So what I'm thinking is this is a disconnect for the firing pin, so that the firing pin will not be able to hit the primer. It will be blocked off from the primer unless the trigger is pulled, which brings this arm up and it lifts this out of place, allowing the firing pin to hit the primer. That's my guess. Of course, I couldn't tell you for certain. Now let's put in the loaded chamber indicator. In order to put this in, I'm pretty sure it goes in either way. Whether you flip it around doesn't really matter. Now you reach this in, and you want to, there's that spring that we put in, that funny looking one, on the firing pin. Now, we've got to kind of reach in there and lift it up so that the loaded chamber indicator spring can go in under it. Or we could just perhaps push it. Now I'm going to have to try to pry it up. Yep, there we go. Almost. Yeah. Alright, now if we just put that here. I'll show you everything I'm doing here in a second. There. Okay. Now, you want the rear, the small part of the loaded chamber indicator to go through this hole, so that when there's a chamber, a round in the chamber, it will push back on that, see? Also, you want the loaded chamber indicator spring to be left in this position, so it's pushing against the slide on this part right here. And also, you want the funny looking spring here that's on the firing pin to be pushing down the flat part of the loaded chamber indicator. Also, you got to have this smaller flat part here to be behind this here groove, so that it's locked into place. There we go. Okay, now that that's all in, I think, yep, it's time to put the dust cover back on. Now, you want the rear sight to go back on like so. the dust cover itself. Now, this takes a bit of muscle. First off, remember that the rear sight is under spring tension, so you're going to have to be pushing that down. At the same time, you're going to be pushing the dust cover down and to the rear. Okay. Okay, good. Yep, the rear sight is nice and solid. The dust cover is in there flush. One time when I